Nathan Spearing. Welcome to the Thank God for Bitcoin podcast.
Great to be here.
This has been somewhat of a long time coming. We've been trying to make this work, and both been busy. And then on the kind of a last minute thing, I just threw out the possibility yesterday of hopping on today, and you're like, let's do it. So great to have you here. Maybe can you introduce yourself for those who aren't familiar with who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Nathan Spearing. I am the oldest of 7 children, born and raised in northern Alabama. First generation homeschool family. We homeschool our children now, but then entered the Army not immediately after high school. I actually worked a congressional campaign and then joined the Army. Was in Ranger Battalion for a number of years. Transitioned over to the Special Forces side of the house at Fort Bragg about midway through my almost 14-year career. But I had a 7-year-old son as my oldest kid, and I was deployed and was kind of not feeling effective where I was. And it was over Christmas, so it was a particular acute feeling of being absent, and was just kind of that actual set me on the path to say, I don't think that the war is trending to more bureaucratic, more political. I had a good run. My kids are growing up and I'm not present. And so I'm going to exit. And one of the kind of adages that the Army uses, at least, and is very typical of government methodology, I think, is once you've done 10, you might as well stay in, meaning till 20 years, because the greatest thing you could possibly ever achieve in life is a federal retirement at 38 years old. And so I was doing kind of the math and realizing that I think time was a better asset to reallocate. And a lot of people just felt like I was crazy, that I was at almost 14 years. But the way I looked at it is my son was 7 at the time that I kind of put the mark on the wall. My son was 7, and I didn't want to spend double his life again before I could get a pension. So that was kind of the one metric that I focused in on. I could look at him and see him at 7 and be like, his entire life again before I can retire. And I think that, and he's only one of 5 kids. So I think it's time to get out, and against kind of the way that the government methodology goes, and get out. And then I actually found out we were in the middle of closing on a house. It was a 8,300 square foot historic mansion that had 11 bathrooms, and we had just cashed out some real estate to be able to do this transaction. So I had a decent amount of money, but we had just closed. We just put a 110 grand down, I think, on this house. Got a great price on it. It was just really needed everything. And then the next day found out that that was like 2 or 3 days before getting out. Then the next day found out, if I don't write a $40,000 check to the government, which is a enlistment bonus that I only served part of, and that they were going to tax me on it. And so I knew I had to pay it back. I knew that the government was going to come for that money, but the actual added knowledge that if I didn't pay it back my last day, that I would get taxed, and then I would have to basically go back and forth between government finance and the IRS and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, you know what? That was about half of our cash on hand after the real estate deal. And so then I spent half of the remaining of that to buy a truck, started a construction business, and we moved into the house without air conditioning. We had one working toilet of the 11 bathrooms. We had a kitchen sink working, and we had a shower on the other end of the house working. My wife likes to joke that we had one sink, one toilet, and one shower, all in separate rooms, in 8,300 square feet, and no HVAC at all, because I had gone in and removed some of the stuff and started trying to update it. And I guess the rest, they say, is history. So it was began my School of Hard Knocks MBA in entrepreneurship, customer service, construction.
Yep.
Got a little lawsuit and some contract law on the same first year, basically. Just all kinds of stuff happening, and looking down, kind of always, are we going to be able to pay the bills,
Yep.
essentially? Because
Yep.
I didn't get a retirement, and we kind of had already gone out on a limb with this massive historic renovation.
Yep.
And in a lot of ways, like, just looking back on the hubris of, like, what were we thinking? And I say all the time, like, it was harder than I ever thought it would be, but I am so glad I did it.
Yep.
And part of the reason, I didn't really have a real well-formed plan, but part of the reason was I felt like I was young at the time that I got out. I've almost been out 9 years. So I think I was about to turn 34.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing my math correct. I'm 33. And so I was like, I'm still young. Thank God I'm healthy. I'm
Yep.
banged up, but I still
Yep.
got some hustle, as they say.
Yep.
And I think I want to get the education when I'm younger, and build something that I can actually pass to my kids.
Sure.
Because the federal retirement, as good as it is, it ends when you die.
Oh,
And
really?
so, business, property, things like that. I wanted to start. I didn't know exactly how I would do it, and really didn't have any kind of plan, except for kind of, I was like, well, I got this house, I'll work on that. I got 80 grand in the bank. That's a relatively good salary if we just have to live off of that. And then God, in his providence, basically took my margin away and forced me to not be comfortable and to get after it. It's like, no, you're not going to sit back, Spearing. You're gonna get on the gas right now, or you're gonna go bankrupt. And so yeah, it's been awesome. And I think that as I kind of contemplate all of it and have conversations with people, what I want people to be able to do in surrounding content in these interviews is, if you feel this tug that is the Holy Spirit telling you to do something and shake things up, do it now. Like, just go for it. Geronimo, amen. And make it happen. And the sooner you do it, the better. The sooner you start learning, the sooner you can start compounding whatever it is that you're trading in that particular time. And that time is, my good friend of mine passed away last December in a car accident about a month from retiring. And his kids spoke. He's survived by some incredible kids. His kids spoke at the funeral, and my kids were listening to it the other day. So that's the time, is the resource we spend never knowing the balance, and so thankfully I can look back and think, I'm glad I spent my time the way that I did, instead of staying in the government. And that being said, it's Veterans Day, and I appreciate everybody that serves, and I'm super glad. I have friends at the Pentagon. I have friends, still in special operations, and and that go to our church, and I'm just so grateful that they're continuing to fight the war the way that God's called them to do it. But He called me out. Thank the Lord, and I'm glad I'm out, and I'm glad I'm here. And lots, hopefully lots more to build and contribute with my kids and my wife going forward, and tremendously thankful that I'm here as well.
Man, incredible story. Again, have lots more questions, but just on the retirement front, did you happen to see? I think the public version of Sean Ryan's interview with Matt Bissonnette went live yesterday. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, I am about, I think, almost 2 hours into that right now.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like 3 or 4 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a 4-hour one. And I'm particularly interested, have friends, I don't know him personally, but have friends that know him, and a lot of the same community and a lot of overlap, and particularly interested. The verdict is still out, I think, about what I feel about. There is this kind of stigma of getting out, and
then,
conducting yourself in podcasts and the internet in a certain way that is I think most of the time is viewed as profiting and self. There's a lot of selfless service in the military,
yep,
and then serving at higher levels, you kind of say, hey, I'm gonna be quiet about a lot of that stuff because of national security and because of people I'm with or whatever.
yep,
But then there's this other side that the one friend that I was texting, it has also been on Sean Ryan. I was texting him and I was saying, there's another side of this that's eternal, and God writing a very specific story,
yep,
for me, for you, for all of us, and using your past and your experiences to set captives free.
yep,
Doing hostage rescue in the military, but also like the gospel is hostage rescue.
yep,
That's my methodology about all these people that act insane. It's ultimately that's an immortal soul held captive by sin, and the end is death.
yep,
It's an eternal judgment, and so there's a tremendous opportunity to use these platforms and to use our particular optics. One of the things I feel like that the special operations and military service did to me is I do not fear death at all. Like, I mean, and I can say that with every ounce of my being. And that's one of the reasons why I was so ticked at the church during COVID, because it showed that the American church wasn't ready to reckon with the finality of this body in the present form. And people that are supposed to be leaders were cowards.
yep,
And I had already had to reckon with this. And I was 22, and we had gotten into kind of firefights all day long, and we left. My squad was in a observation position, and we left some binoculars when we withdrew back. And in my mind, I'm like, this is like $50 at Sporting Goods, like this is not like we left machine gun or any of that stuff. And my platoon sergeant was like, go back and get them. There was people maneuvering, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But then I kind of was like, all right, this is my authority.
yep,
And he's just told me to go execute this thing. I think it's ridiculous, but I also don't get to sit here as a specialist and tell this E7, I'm in Ranger Battalion, hey, I don't want to do this. That's ridiculous. So I just was like, I just sprinted, out and, told the guys, hey, stay with me. And I just ran for it, grabbed them, ran back. And, that kind of moment was we actually had been in a lot of firefights that day, and it was probably more dangerous to use the vernacular of the unsaved and the person that doesn't know his immortality in Christ. But that was the first time I had to kind of deliberately go expose myself to danger. It was kind of the first firefight, first time, and I was like, okay, do I believe this or not? I'm going. And from that point on, not it's execute, no fear, and not believe that I won't be killed, but that I won't be killed earlier than it's supposed to happen.
Yep.
And the Stonewall Jackson quote about his faith demanding that he is as safe in his bed as he is on the battlefield, and that every man should have that. Really should believe that. And so anyway, I guess that those kinds of things I want people to know. I deeply in my being want men specifically to live without fear, because as a Christian in the center of God's will, in prayer, and in subject, making sure you're submitting to Christ and to the leaders of the church, you're invincible. But I had to learn that God was also going to provide for me financially, because that's the irony is I could face down grenades being thrown at me,
Hmm.
but I was really like terrified of not being able to pay my mortgage and, having to pay these invoices and having these clients sue me. I mean, I was in the courtroom having a physiological response, heart rate, and all that I didn't ever have on the battlefield. And I was, but had to go through and be like,
Yep.
this is the mission right now. And what do you want me to learn from this right now? And ultimately back to trust and
Yep.
faith that he is going to take care of me and
Yep.
it will work out for my spiritual good,
Yep.
no matter what. And it's a hard, I think that, that was my struggle, still is my struggle, that God is going to provide for me financially. And I can go hang out in the special ops circle, but I guess that's what I'm trying to transfer, that ability to say, that your mindset,
Yep.
informed by the Word of God, and then even my own personal experience. God said not yet so
Mhm.
many times,
Yep.
and I had no idea that I was that close to dying. And
Yep.
he said not yet. The enemy had the drop on me, or I knew they were there somewhere, and they get to just spray out the door or whatever. And he said not yet. And so if it's happened this number of times, it will continue.
Yep.
He's the same God. My relationship with him is unchanged. So anyway, I mean, I'm waxing eloquent. I'm sorry. It's a
So,
habit.
Nathan, this is awesome. And I'd love to explore more just like practical ways to build that courage. And particularly like you make this connection with the trusting God for provision and that real experience of fear, right? Whether you're being sued or you're not able to make your mortgage, or this question of stepping out from the known into the unknown. So like there's a bunch of young guys in my church, and a lot of them are young dads, and they're wrestling with these questions of, okay, how do I I want to have a larger family, but we're in the city, we're in an expensive place, how do I make that work? Like home ownership is so difficult, and like just a normal 9 to 5 job, like I crunch the numbers, it doesn't seem to work. And so
Hmm.
I wonder for you, and as I'm like the middle-aged guy with, I have 8 kids, oldest is 19, and so I'm a couple steps ahead of these young guys, and I'm encouraging them, hey, structure your life and your business and your life decisions now, so that you're set up to be able to have some freedom, to be present with your kids, to be able to have the financial flex to have more kids. And I think of like the Charlie Kirk line of have more kids than you can afford,
Mhm.
right? And even that decision takes courage, takes like some guts. But what advice do you have for these guys? Either something you learned on the battlefield or just you've learned since then, to think about, okay, it's a real risk to move from, hey, I have a sustainable, safe 9 to 5, but it has this glass ceiling. Or I
Hmm.
can step out and start with nothing, and it's like it's me and the end zone, right? And it's like if I make it, I make it. If I suck and I don't make it, that's all on me. Like that's really hard, right? So
Hmm.
how do you help guys with making that decision?
Well, I think the military vignette that kind of jumps to my mind is, there to get to the most elite ranks in the military, you have to be willing to do things other people won't,
Mm.
and you have to stay the course. Excuse me, sorry.
Mhm.
And there's as I went through my training, you would see guys mentally quit
Mm.
before they physically quit. And that was the goal of, the very first thing that was, I would say was difficult for me is, you go to infantry training, then you go to airborne school, and then I got picked up to go to Ranger Indoctrination Program, which is called, I think, RASP now, but it was just 3 weeks um, of them just trying to get you to quit. And, mostly physical is the mechanism for that. Push-ups and screaming at you and we would have to say the Ranger Creed. They'd get 6 of us up there, and we'd have to say one stanza of the creed, and then they'd have the scary dude be right in your face trying to say it, and everybody would forget a word or if one little mess up, the whole class is running to the wood line and touching it and running back, and just if the last half, oh, you were too slow, do it again, and just kind of just continually, and people would make an excuse or would decide, do I really want to be a Ranger? I could just go, like, airborne's already more prestigious than just, somebody, they call them legs. I'm at least I'm airborne. I can go, the 82nd would be okay. And so, and they quit. And some of them maybe get a medical issue. I was talking about this with some guys last night, that were medics for a special forces selection. They just said, if a guy comes in, just give him a medical discharge. Like, let him go. Let him have the piece of paper that he had got, because it's like saving face. Oh, I got medically dropped. I got hurt. I would have been the most amazing soldier ever, except for I got hurt. And so I think that is, you have to be willing to do things other people won't do, and you have to be willing and acknowledge that it will take harder. And I was texting Jordan about this a little bit before the episode, but I thought that because I excelled and got to the very top in special operations, that I could just transfer that excellence and be at the same level in small business now. And the reality is, none of my clients cared that I was special ops, and a lot of my clients are like, are you sure you're special ops? Because you kind of suck at customer service right now, like, where's my freaking tile? Like, and these things, that realizing that, in owning whatever you can. And I would say, one of the things you said, you're a couple of years ahead. The way that a young man does this, or any young person, a young woman as well, is realizing that the time they have right now is worth the least it will be worth, as far as opportunity cost of that time. So the sooner, just like anything, there's the old adage of, hey, if you put $1,000 a month in when you're 18 and continue to 25, the math works the same way with spiritual formation, with business and education knowledge. The sooner that you get with the program, and the sooner you start making investments, the yield will come earlier and in greater amounts. And so I think a lot of people today are wasting time. I'm wasting time. I'm still, I don't like it when my wife points out how I'm wasting time. She's right on my case. Like, hey, so I would say,
I'm hearing about this concept for the first time. This is crazy.
Yes,
you're talking about this.
Let me know how to organize your life so that your wife doesn't have very awesome and pointed tidbits to help you do it better. Even realizing that there's people in your life. That is a blessing to have a wise woman.
Yep.
That she isn't pointing these things out because she doesn't like me. She is in this with me. We have had conversations about what the vision for our family is, and she's looking at my actions saying, you got distracted, didn't you? We talked about this already. Yep. And so this young people have that too, and they should have that. If you don't have that, if you're not in a church, if you don't have older men, I have probably at least 5 to 10 men that are way ahead of me and that are gracious enough to pretty much pick up the phone anytime that I call. And I think 2 things. They don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, and they are actually excited to hear this because I'm a little bit crazy about I'm honest about what I'm talking about. And then I'm also going to go and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to take wisdom. I'm going to execute from it. So I've heard people say that, like, older men want to invest in younger people, because not because we hate them, but because we've already walked this path already. Yep. And we've looked back at how we did it, and we screwed up. And so when you talk to an older man, a wise older man who's where you want to be. He's literally, there's nothing more glorious than having somebody learn the lesson from my pain, and them it's having the wisdom and to apply it, and having people come up to me and say, I quit my job and I started my own business, and now 3 people in my family are working for me, and all, like there's the stories just happen. And so and you're also not going to, we talked about this via text. I equate it to land navigation. You kind of have an idea of where you're trying to get, but between where you are and there is kind of unknown. So you shoot an azimuth, you get on the compass, you start walking. Oh, shoot, there's a creek. Oh, shoot, this is really hairy terrain. I'm going to go around this way, or what these things, like you got to start walking in one particular direction. And so doing a really good, even older men, like, have you seen the book? It's 168 hours, I think, is Laura Vanderkamp or something. Basically, just her methodology is like, you can't do everything in a day, but you can do everything in a week. Yeah. If you break down 40 hours of working, most average American works like 32 and lies to their employer that they actually worked 40. They took a 15-minute longer lunch break. So just say you're working 50, which is more than most people. Sleep in 8 hours, taking the Sabbath off 100%, and devoting 2 hours to meals or hygiene. You almost have as a young person, you almost have a full-time job, still time that is. And when you start having kids, you don't have as much of that. 38 hours or 42 hours, whatever the final math comes to. So how are you using that marginal time to, and I think, Hormozy, even though he's a heathen, talks about this, like, invest in the S&Me 500, like education. And the amount of knowledge that is in podcasts and accessible, but you have to not get into entertainment methodology, but I like recreation. You're recreating yourself. So what is it? And this podcast hopefully will be one of those things. Like, it's going to foster a new way of looking at the world that causes you to spend your time in a way that is more profitable, and profitable being glorifying God in the way that, ultimately every one of us is a unique individual, and that begs that there's something that only I can do before God. Not that he needs me, but that if he's created me, formed me in my mother's womb, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made for a specific purpose. And anytime I get distracted, anytime I tend to sloth or any of the other sins, I am squandering my ability to do the mission for his glory. And we just have to be very serious about this. And there can be this, there's 2 ditches, obviously. One ditch is, I need to start a business when I'm 9, and I need to be a millionaire by 12, and being obsessed and letting money drive you that way. But then there's the other side is, I got all the time to play, to game into the night. I can confidently say that if you are gaming and you're older than 10 years old, as a boy, as a man, you're making the wrong call right now. Like, you're the reason why these video games get billions of dollars spent on them is how much of your time and energy is getting stolen from you. It's a good business in stealing education, or time from young men and time from young people. It's billions of dollars. Be smarter than that. Realize that's a psychological operation against your capacity to do things for God. And I played Halo when I was growing up. We had Halo parties. We did things like that. Like, I think that there can be, but a few weeks ago, I bought 2 really old Xboxes on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, this is gonna be fun to play with my kids. We got rid of those suckers. I watched what it did to my sons in real time, and I was like, I I am going to like take them in the backyard and shoot them with a shotgun. You know, we can't. And in talking to my sons, like, you were put here to work and to cultivate. And in America, we put this magical, like, when you're 18 and when you graduate, like, that's when you should start acting like adult, but not yet. Like, you can actually go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and join a fraternity and drink. We'll give you 4 more years to do that. And they're stealing your prime years to grow, spiritually grow, physically grow. Like, you should be lifting weights, you should be in shape. And all these kind of things are an investment in a type of woman that's going to want to marry you. You know, I mean, my wife wanted nothing to do with me when I was a 16-year-old homeschooler. When I was an airborne ranger with valorous awards, it was a different story. You know, and it wasn't even premeditated. It just, that's how it worked. She knew that I was going to protect her. She knew that I had strength, and she didn't know what a pain she didn't know I was going to move her into a mansion with no AC or heat for a year and a half. And then we haven't even talked about the fact that we were in a bus for almost 3.5 years on land. Cause I guess that's the other side of it, is when you're a young dude, like, you can live in a tent outside of, I don't buy in the city, maybe because just the land is such a premium.
No, we're in Portland. You can live in a tent on any street corner.
Well, I would say
no problem.
You can buy the crappiest house and live in a tent in the front yard when you're single. If your wife's expecting your first kid, you're not doing that, you know? I actually did. My wife was pregnant with our second when we bought our first fixer-upper. I paid $165,000 for this house, and, 20% down, used the re-enlistment bonus for that. It was in a really good part of town. And then I demoed the whole thing, and my wife, like, started crying. We were in an apartment complex. She was about to give birth. She's like, we have a baby coming in like 4 months, and this thing has just got trashed. How are you going to get it back together for me to have a home birth here? You know, like, it's and having to work through that. It's easier to do it when you don't have that concern, but you can still do it if you have the right woman too. Like, you can work together and grow together, and what that, essentially the return on that first house that I bought was, from a time perspective, was not that much. Like, every weekend, every night, but what it was is kind of like a savings account, because I only paid materials, and then I sold it, and it's tax-free for the amount that we got. But I got skill, and I did it again. And so I guess I just recently wrote a post on X about this. Like, it doesn't have to be a house. It can be anything that your skill and your time can make it more valuable. And my brother has flipped 4-wheelers and side-by-sides, because that's a thing that a lot of people buy with discretionary income. And then when they can't pay the rent, they sell the dirt bike. They sell the, and a lot of times there's a battery that needs to get swapped. Like, it's not, you don't have to be a mechanic. You just got to have some basic assessment of what you're doing. So anything that you can add value to with your time. And when you're younger, it doesn't matter. Your time's worth nothing. You you're living free, probably with your parents. And so you literally there's no bottom for you. You're going to get a meal. You're going to get whatever. And then I think ultimately too, like, even when you have a wife and kids, like, there are a lot of restaurants that just put stuff in the dumpster. You're not going to go hungry. You know, you might have to eat food out of the dumpster, but, like, there's just not. And you said you're in Portland. Like, look at all these people. Like, they're fine in a tent. They're eating, like, in America right now, the bottom is still above 90% of the world living condition wise, you know?
Yep.
And I mean, I have had the conversations with my kids. They're like, Dad, are we rich? And I'm like, well, when we take the dump trailer to the landfill, do you see whole cities there and families and communities with houses out of cardboard and scraping little bit of residue off of a can because that's the food that they like? That there are nobody lives in landfills in America.
Yeah.
So we're richer than all these other countries because those are actually cities where people live and they stay alive, and I wouldn't say they're thriving at all, but
Yeah.
that's back to that fear of the bottom, perceived bottom.
Yeah.
And who cares what anybody thinks about you? Like, why you're building this? Like,
Yep.
we're about to be at this point with this farm and this compound that we're building. And my wife is, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, you know, that people are going to come in and be like, wow, you know, they don't know that they're not going to. And if you, a year or two, people aren't going to know you lived in a bus for 3.5 years to get this place, you know, or even we're living in it right now. And there's, I mean, you can like no windows in my office right now. Like, I'm gonna put the window in later. I got the ones that are required for egress in bedrooms, but like it's not finished. It's but it's way better than a bus. That's the thing, is I got my family to get their expectations for living conditions so low in a bus that a partially finished house feels like luxury. You know, it's all about perspective, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, it makes me think of, there's a comedian who talked about, he's like basically, he's like, the homeless are actually living like more healthy lives than a lot of us. Like, they're getting sunshine all day long. They're walking a lot. He's like, in many cases, especially in America, he's like, these people are peak physique, you know, like that really is, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's so funny you say that, because I just had this conversation with my kids yesterday in the van. One of them was like, said something about, I can't remember. It wasn't about being poor, but they said something about something. I'm like, about being hungry. And I was like, you have never been hungry in your entire life. Like
Yes.
I was like, guys, you
can tell me in 12 days, you can say you're hungry.
Yeah.
You know,
and
you don't have to eat for
part
2
of this,
weeks, Bo.
Yeah. And this is where I just think a lot of this just comes down to, like, the thing that you're talking about is, I mean, a lot of this is just like, do you value the things that you have? Do you value where you are? Do you value your weakness? And I think there's like so many of us, or so few of us, appropriately value like the situations that we're in when we're in them. And so again, like with you're sitting there, you're tempted as an 18-year-old, you're like, I have nothing. And it's like, yes, but you have time, you have a safety net. So like literally you could go do anything and you're still able to sleep at home in most cases, or but just even starting this conversation younger. And so like the best, I mean, that Ash and I know, at least that I know, the person who's the best at this is Ryan, who's one of the other hosts on this podcast. Like, Ryan had this conversation with his oldest at like 12, and then his youngest at like 9 was there in parallel. And so they started like 9 years old, like thinking about, all right, what can I do to make money? And so his one son starts as a photographer at age 9. His other son starts learning to program when he was 9. And so you're just looking at this and you're just like, why aren't we doing this again? Because like, this is just the most obvious thing. It's like we do everything wrong, like just parroting the culture, parroting, you know, what is normal because of movies and TV and, you know, different authorities telling us this is what you should do, which coincidentally gets us into lots of debt, which coincidentally then means we're relying on government and other. It's just like, when you actually step back and look at these things, you're just forced to think like, is there some sort of grand conspiracy against us? Because you just look at this, you're like, we're not doing anything that makes sense. Like none of this makes sense if the goal was for us to, you know, be financially self-reliant and, you know, just able to have the time and just the minds to do things that are in the best interests of God and in the best interests of our own selves and other people as well. So what was kind of like for you, was this a lot of the stuff that you've been talking about and kind of this mindset, obviously growing in your faith helps these things. Was this something that being in the military helped with, like being in special forces, just the reality of like, I have the skills to kill anyone and to go anywhere, be dropped off anywhere in the middle of anywhere, and I can survive and thrive? Like, is that part of this, or like, where was there other things other people experiences that helped with that? Like I would love to kind of,
I think that I was able to fail at such a colossal level in the military, and learn from it. I mean, and honestly, I had to do pretty much everything twice. And I can look back and I can see God's hand in that. And it was kind of about the time that I thought I was doing it of my own strength. And then God was gracious enough to say, take a lap, Spearing. Like, you aren't going to be a special forces super soldier because you did this. And I had to do it again. And I was 4 months married, no kids. And it was consuming me. I was going out on the weekends. I was shooting all the time. I was trying to do the O course and PT and all this like physical training where it was my identity. And God knew, if I give you this at 23, it's going to take your soul. Yep. So I'm going to send you back to Ranger Battalion for 2 more years. And then you're going to have a kid. You're going to have another one on the way. You're going to be a little bit more of a man of God before I give you this cool job. And it ultimately allowed me to even walk away from the coolest job in the military and early and pay money back to do it. And that's God's grace to allow me to value. And even then, it was harder than I could have possibly imagined.
Yep.
And it's not going to be easy. And I think that's the side of it, is that as a Christian, if you are doing what God has called you to do, it should not ever be easy. I don't think. If it's easy, you're not doing everything He's called you to do. You are doing, you're maybe kind of going towards the American dream end of the ditch or side of the road here in that ditch. And that I do believe in His mercy, He gives us Sabbath rest. There is a rhythm of the week that God has instituted to be able to rest from your labors. And you get to actually stop. I have an app on my phone that turns off my business line stuff. Like, do not respond to business stuff. It blocks Outlook, which is my work email. I don't touch it on Sunday.
What is this app for the folks at home who want a patron?
Opal, I think, is Opal.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can, and I use for my business, I have a Google Voice line. That's my business line, so that I don't want clients to have my personal cell phone number.
100%.
Because they don't understand what I'm trying to build after hours, and they want to ruin that. Not because they hate me, but because they're going to think about something. And so I don't touch it. Like, I turn notifications off, and I have it on most of the time because I got to make sure there's not a water leak or something like that. But I don't respond after hours. If they send me something at 9 p.m., I send them something at 5 a.m. And when I get up and start doing some of that stuff sometimes. But that's how I am. I feel like I have an addictive personality. Like, that's kind of goes along with me being able to do these extreme high risk things, is that I'm also susceptible to the stuff that these guys that make the phones engineer them to do. Yep. And so I'm a huge fan of James Clear's Atomic Habits and forming your environment to fit what you're trying to accomplish. And so, if you're a young person, like, screen time is going to immediately show you whether or not you're on track. Just pull it up. And if you can look at what Instagram or TikTok or whatever, how much you're on there, and say, yeah, I was producing stuff for the kingdom of God for that 4.7 hours of social media usage or whatever. Like, that is why you're broke. That is why you're not successful. All the people that are spiritually, monetarily, physically ahead of you have figured out how to allocate their time towards these ends where you have been entertained and distracted. So stop stop going to the Coliseum and being part of the mob, and in little ways like this. Don't it's that's the other side of it, is this is compounding. God is gracious when you've sinned and you've made mistakes. Confess it. Talk to somebody about it. Okay, how do I make a little bit of an improvement? And 1% change, 0.5% change, especially if you're married. Don't listen to this podcast and go tell your wife you're going to move into a bus tomorrow. Just incrementally get her there. You have to move her into a mansion with no heat or AC for 1.5 years before you do the bus. Like it's a playbook that it's got to be thought out before you do that to
Nathan,
your wife.
You say this like a man who's had men go to their wives as a result of hearing you talk before and say, we're moving
I've walked fixer-uppers with married couples, and the husband's just like, yeah, it's going to be so amazing. He has like no idea how to do anything with tools or anything. And he's like, it's going to be amazing. We're going to turn in this. And we saw this on HGTV. And his wife's like, she's just like got this look on her face of just terror. And I say, hey man, like, I don't think God's calling you to buy this property. Like, I think that we need to, and that's the side of it is the risk, doing calculated analysis of the risk here. If I buy this 4-wheeler for $1,100 and can't sell it because I don't know, like, okay, I lost $1,100, like don't take on that is part of the learning. Like all these things with Bitcoin, like you don't want to go cash in your whole Charles Schwab account and use the wrong exchange and eat up in fees, and then it goes into like you can't transfer it to cold storage properly because you try to do it all at once, whatever. Like all these, you got to learn these things, little increments where the mistakes aren't your whole life savings, but you have to do it. Like it's, I've talked with like Rory Groves, like if you want to learn how to grow food, it's not, I'm going to get a bunch of seeds and keep them in the closet, and then when the zombie apocalypse hits, I'm going to have a amazing garden. Like you got to start with a tomato plant in a pot on your front porch. And that's, I guess that's another side of this story is I'm feeling like, and my wife and I are talking about this, we went big, man. Like we kept going bigger, and we can look back and it's working out, it's fine. But we can also say like, we honestly, and we had to confess this in the last year or so, we're sorry, Lord, for the lack of stewardship here. Having, tractors and skid steers and trailers and storage buildings and buses and the mansion with people staying in it and vehicles and kids and church. And it's like all these things that take time. And when you're not, watching animals too, like let's start a homestead. Why not? Like we got 7 businesses, let's do another one. And I think that's, the other side of it is don't be distracted and overextend yourself either. And even I've done that, and I've had to, like, we got a milk cow, and my wife was like, I am doing an hour of work for $32 gross product. And realize, but the same side of it is like, okay, we sold the cow at a loss. We sold the milk machine basically for about what we paid. We lost shipping on the milk machine to somebody at church, and they already had a couple cows. So they're at a little bit more economy of scale.
I was going to say economies of scale are a real thing, and they're a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but ultimately that is a very concrete lesson that I learned last year. I actually should be remodeling houses and buying milk.
Yeah.
I should not be milking and and my remodels are suffering because I'm having to put fencing in for this cow and go get hay. And so there's all these things that, like, it's still happening to me, that it being really, really good at one or two things and focusing on that, and then just committing to that process of learning the business, learning the downsides. And it, I'm at 9 years of construction. This is about the point where I feel like I may not die. in this business. You know, like it's taken so long to learn how to do it, how to charge enough, how to communicate. And I'm still failing all the time. It's a lot to manage, but you want to have those lessons smaller when you have less kids. And the more you have them now, the better equipped you're going to be later and the more money you're going to have. I mean, I had no idea how. I felt like an idiot paying what I paid for this land, but I don't anymore. I mean, it's only been 2.5 years since I bought one track and like 3 years, but it felt like so much. But my wife and I were like, you know what? No matter how much we pay today, there's going to be a family reunion in 3 generations, and they're going to say, can you believe what Grandpa Nate got this tract for? Like, it's just, that's just a thing that is going to, and that's why we ended up in the bus for 3.5 years instead of 1.5, is because we could buy more. And I told my wife, I'm like, I got 400 grand. I could build you a house, or I can buy a lot more land, and I don't know when I'm going to build you the house. And my wife was like, she literally just said, get the land, you know, that's forever. And I think she regretted it, at like 2 or 3 months before we got into the house, you know, but, and that's what a friend of mine said, you don't dig up and doubt what you planted in faith. And I actually can look back on the last several years and say, we've invested this and we've swung for the fences, if you will, with a multi-generational vision, you know, and the reason I have 54 acres is because I really want to build a house for every one of my kids. I want them to be able to live on this parcel if they want to. I don't want my kids to have to face that entry buying a house. My goal is that they have a house and no debt on that house. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull it off. The younger kids might benefit from that one. The older one may not, but essentially, and I don't even believe, and this is something that John Moody, we've talked about him, like he formed that. That's a Eastern mentality around wealth, and that we're growing something as a family, and that we're all working in this together. And the West doesn't understand this the same way. And I've heard so many Christian people be like, my kid's got to earn it. It's like, your kid is earning it right now. Like my kids are, this entire house is set for hanging drywall, putting shingles on it, and laying the block. My kids and I did. Like, they built this house, which is essentially my wealth, but it's our family wealth. And we talked about it. Why did we lay it out this way? We laid it out this way so we could have 100 people around the piano singing psalms. We're creating a physical place for spiritually significant things to happen. It's not, we didn't live in that bus to try to get this grand thing. We're trying to do something generationally beneficial. And it's painful. 3.5 years, I've said it many times, 3 years in a bus is nothing to 3 generations. It's nothing, you know? And in the middle of it, I had to say we had to say this to each other. This is our out West moment. But guess what? Nobody's going to scalp us in the middle of the night, you know? And that's literally what people did not very long ago. They got in a covered wagon with 9 kids and one on the way, and they went west to stake a claim, you know, and died and had. I mean, we're talking about
dysentery. They all died of dysentery on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, they didn't even realize they were drinking fecal matter, you know, like they don't understand water quality and all these things. Like, that is not happening to you. Stop acting like that is what's happening here, because you can't get your Netflix to stream like quickly enough or whatever. Like, oh, it's buffering. I can't, this is ridiculous. You know, what's going on with the internet? Like, that's the kind of stuff that people, we're weak, and the church is just as guilty. Like, I mean, not just as guilty. We do, like, but even Christian education, I mock a lot of that. It's like, you guys are doing the same thing the government schools do, the same time that everybody gets dropped off, And we think because we sprinkle a little Jesus on top, it's Christian education. Like, what is the end that we're preparing these kids for? It's ridiculous. Like, and why are we letting that family in? You know, like they don't even believe like we believe. Like and they're causing the problems. You know, like why are they even here? But that's also why I homeschool. It's like y'all do that. Y'all keep on doing your glorious, you know, whatever this is.
We were just talking about this morning because we were reading through reading 1 Corinthians 5 or 6, 10. Is it 10? Okay, 1 Corinthians 10, where he's talking about no, I think it's 5. But it was like a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And so we were talking just about how that works. And it's just like, yeah, like God has made, so we talk a lot about the principle of sowing and reaping on this podcast. And so we just talk about how God, it's not just sowing and reaping, because that makes it sound like it's a 1-to-1 equation, but it's like it's sowing and then exponential reaping. Like you're going to get exponentially more of what you do today. And so God has designed this to be something that blesses us and that, again, motivates us, because we see that this is a fixed and immutable thing that God has built into the world. The Apostle Paul says that we can't deny that reality without mocking God. It's so obvious that this is how God has made the world to work. And yet there are so many things like you just described, whether it's education, whether it's, you know, spending, you know, tons of time watching movies and, you know, whatever it is, like where, you know, if you're sowing certain patterns, and then you're going to get a predictable outcome, even if there's a variety of bad manifestations that could come from it. You know, it's going to be not good. And so again, I just think for a lot of us, we live in a world that is at odds with reality. We live in a world that's at odds with, that wants to just act like we can have our cake and eat it too. We don't like either or choices. We want to have everything. And I just think that it's the people who are willing to come to grips with the fact that that's not how the world works, and it's not how God made the world to operate, and who are willing to make tough choices, you know, and deny themselves. This is just part and parcel. This is just normal Christianity. Is just deny yourself. I think that, again, they're gonna continue to reap the benefits of that over time. I mean, I'm trying to think in terms of people who are listening to this, again, because we have a lot of people who, again, are new Christians who listen to these kind of things. And so it can be kind of discouraging, because like they can be looking at, you know, they can look at situations that are like, oh man, I'm so far behind on this, or man, I've had my kids in public school, or I've had my kids in these things. And, you know, maybe that either went fine, so maybe they would push back, or they would say, oh man, and it really didn't go well. Like, how do you encourage people maybe who are a little bit farther down a road that they wish they weren't on? You know, I mean, how did you encourage people who, again, are kind of just seeing some of these things for the first time?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I am feeling, even, you know, with that, back to that overextending and feeling like I wasn't stewarding, like clearly just having animals die, not because we did anything overly negligent, but just like there is a real physical manifestation to the fact that a predator got in here, or, you know, like we didn't supervise this or whatever. Like with the farm, there's just things that happen because there's so much stuff happening. Like it is, God is outside of time, you know. he did institute it, and it is ordered that way. And it's his joke on scarcity and supply and demand is combine everybody to time. And so that's literally how you can take his word, start reading it, and, you know, start in Proverbs, start in those things. And I think one of the things I've really been, you know, friends of mine, we've been talking about a lot, is prayer and acknowledging that, like, I think in our current American culture, we emphasize a quiet time where you read the Bible. But we don't really talk about praying and how you pray, and understanding that God is our Father. He is everything that anything our earthly fathers did that was good. He's that infinite, and anything they did that was bad is of the father of lies, not God. He's perfect. He's eternal, And I think that you can see the pattern of Scripture. He desires to bless those who fear him and keep his commandments. So just start doing that and realize that even though it feels like we're all confined to time, he's outside of that and is able to bless you in as he sees fit. And so take that small amount of faithfulness right now, confess your sin quickly, get around people that point out your sin and realize, I mean, that's one of the hard things, I think, when your wife is pinpointing your sin, you can, as a man, can be like, she hates me, or she's not going to submit to my godly, like, if I'm sinning, it's that, like, she's actually helping me become a version that I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
She doesn't hate me. She hates this, what the sin is turning me into. And the same thing, like, just realize, like, when we read these, like, you have to believe when you read the Bible that is the best way to do things. And there's all these, like, read the Old Testament, like, they tried almost every single way, not God's way. But what did he still do? Like, as soon as they confessed, as soon as they tore down their idols, as soon as they a new judge came in for the Israelites, and they cleansed themselves, there was blessing, like, immediately. Like, and so that's the side of it, is you have to forsake sin. You have to realize that that's killing you, that is, and drive towards holiness. And get around more people that are doing that and are willing to, are living that way. I've been forwarding, a friend of mine forwarded it to me. I've been forwarding to everybody, J.C. Ryle, A Call to Prayer. And it's like 27 pages and on a PDF, free available. And I just read through it this past weekend. I told my kids, like, this will be read before Sunday and it's testable. But realizing, like, we've been reading the Bible, we've been going through the catechism, we've been in church, but am I teaching my children to pray and to confess their sin to God every single day? And then also pray, what am I supposed to do, God? I don't, and I mean, and that's just, I mean, I literally was in lament. Like, I bought this land, God, we're still on the bus. I bought this land. We aren't in, the house isn't finished. The mansion's got this, somebody clogged the toilet, or the basement flooded because of sump pump. And, like, what am I supposed to do? I can't even keep all this up. Like, and then there's just, like, almost like, you're right, you can't. Like, you need me. Here's some blessing. And it's not a prosperity gospel at all, because he could literally just want me to suffer the rest of my life, but at the same time, I'm like, for me personally, I can look back to, I am reaping what I sowed it with sin, and going through the cardinal sins, sloth is not necessarily like you're just laying around drunk and whatever. It's doing something with your time that you're not supposed to be doing, and that's not fruitful. And so, I mean, I think that's there. My mother and father-in-law are first generation Christians and made mistakes, but their daughter is amazing, the most amazing person on the face of the planet, and my wife. And that they just literally made in one generation, and they messed a lot of things up, but God is faithful in what they did. And I think that hopefully they can look at their grandkids and be like, this is a blessing, in one generation, you can change the course. And he desires to bless, to 1,000 generations. For those who fear him and keep his commandments. And that's no other gods. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. No other gods, So what gods do you have that are taking his place?
Yep.
And, and it can be it. I don't know what it is for every one of these people listening, but something probably just came to your mind right away. Tear it down, destroy it immediately, and it's going to come back. Do it again, and be around people. That's the benefit of this. There's the church is where there's people that are serious. And if you're looking around and the people aren't tearing down idols in their life and serious about sin and confessing, then move to another church. Like who you marry is most important. After that, your church and your community around the church. If you don't have it, don't say, the church is just a bunch of hypocrites. Dang straight bunch of hypocrites. Like, look at all of God's people, hypocrites, sinners, terrible, but God, and start little bit and just watch what he does. Like you may have to reap a lot before it gets reversed, but also God gets to decide that. Like, he's gracious enough to be like, no, you don't have to reap anything now. Like, you confess.
Yeah.
I don't know how he works it out, but he will.
Yeah, and the accounting for that is, the Lord also talks about he will restore the years that the locusts have eaten. So there's been years that were lost because of entrenchment in sin or whatever, and he loves to restore. He's not bound by time. He does have normal ways and stuff, but like we also forget that repentance is a certain type of sowing that produces a type of reaping, and so
Right.
like again, you don't want to get too overwhelmed by the whatever the sin you've fallen into or whatever it is, because you can overlook how quickly and how much God, as a good father, loves to restore and just help just bring us out of. He, just like any good father, would want to bring his kid quickly and just elevate him and bring him back. I mean, we see this in the story, the parable of the prodigals, the two sons who were lost. Like, we see this and how the father, while the youngest son, who's returning from his wasteful living and all these kind of things, he's trying to get his story out of how he's going to work for the father. The father just takes him, is like, bring the best robe, like immediately wraps him up, puts him in the best things, even though he's not worthy of any of it. And so this is what it looks like to be. This is the type of father that we have. And I think that one of the things, as you're talking about prayer, one of the things that's convicting, right, is it's so easy to treat prayer as like as a transactional thing, or even if like it's a good thing to pray before meals, but it's so easy to just, all right, Lord, thank you so much for your love for us. Thank you for this food. We just ask that you bless our time. And so it's easy to treat coming before God as just this thing, as if the only thing that he's there for is for us to thank him for the things that the things that we have. There are many things that we have, but it's just so easy to forget that he wants to have real communion with us. And again, he basically tells us all the time, you have not because you ask not. Like, there's all kinds of things where I'm too busy, trying to earn, or too busy trying to do all these cool things, to just stop and just ask the Lord to help me with them. And I just think I've seen, again, like you mentioned, I've seen 100 million times. There's so many Times where the Lord, even though he tells us that he wants us to be like children and he wants us to rely on him like children, we often despise being children. And it's easy to despise being a little child who's dependent on their father. And so I think that a lot of these things are just great reminders. We need to be reminded of stuff that we know and have heard before. And so I think this has been a great example of that. Ashwa, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah. Well, just as I was reflecting on, Nathan, as you've been sharing a couple Proverbs that illustrate it well. Proverbs 24:27, prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field. And after that, build your house. So for all you guys living in a bus, you got a proof text to share with your wife.
Yeah. I use that many times, actually. I'm like, we're building the field, babe.
Yeah.
Like we're putting fence. Our cows are living nicer than us right now. It's okay. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. But I mean, so the principle of, like, we need to plant this seed. We need something that is going to have that exponential growth that will provide generationally. and for now we can give up some comforts for that future generational harvest. And then another one is Proverbs 14:4, where there are no ox in the mangers clean, but abundant crops comes by the strength of the ox. And just being willing to have a little bit of chaos in your life, and to put in the work and to get out the shovel and shovel the manure, because that's where abundance comes from. And I think there was a recent stat going around Twitter about the pay discrepancy between men and women. And they made the point, it's not about male or female. It's married men and everyone else, right? And statistically, if you ask, okay, the men who are married, you compare them to single men and women, married or single, and it's the dudes with an ox they have to clean up after, and a wife they have to house, that are getting it done. And that's something I think either single guys, younger guys, or even newly married guys that are making decisions about having kids, like you do have to take that step of faith. You have to fall on your knees in prayer, trusting God, and it grows our faith. Like we learn to pray when we don't have all that provision. And I just think men are designed for that. Like we're called to walk in these things, and we short change it and short circuit God's design. And in the Bitcoin world, right, we talk about fiat and breaking the sowing and reaping, and just having things easy and outsourcing things to the state. And it's like, well, no, if you do the hard work, you trust God, that what he says is true, and you actually do those things, there really is fruit and a harvest. And going back to it, kind of originally your answer to the question about like, how do you do this? And you said you got through your ranger training and all that because you got to be willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. You got to deal with your own fears and the psychology of it. And I think like that's where things like Bitcoin come in. That's where applying the Bible come in. That like you have all these guys that are working hard, and there's worldly men. There's the Andrew Tates of the world, and there's like a godless way to try to succeed at life, and you can cut corners in godless ways. And then there's like some really sweet biblical hacks that God gives us, where we kind of get cutsies and can get in the fast lane to fruitfulness. So
Well,
I don't know.
one of the
maybe
ways I think too is as we continue to see our society fundamentally change, those of us that have had kids, like the having a workforce, like a human workforce that you also like to hang out with, like, I mean, the coolest thing about building the house, and we have like a local like discipleship group for men or young boys and girls. And they did generators, for the younger group. And my son was like in the car, and he was like, I was able to raise my hand for every one of the things that they talked about for electrical. They said, did you see inside your meter box? Have you pulled a wire? Like, because he had just like, he's 9, and I had him in the crawl space pulling wire from the panel, like, no electricity hooked up, but it's like, I pushed the wire down through the hole. And I said, I had a rod going down. I'm like, I'm pushing it down through this hole, and you just come up over here. And we just did it, looped it through, and we wired. And my electrician came and hooked everything up. But my sons and I pulled all the wire in the crawl space in the attic, and we did it so fast. Like we had walkie-talkies, but I had to tell them, like, you're going in the crawl space because you're tiny, and daddy's elbows and knees hurt from Army, and
you were born for such a time as this.
Yeah. And so I guess that's the real, like, from the provision side, if you can, I mean, my plumber, if there's like a sewage backup, he's like, smells like money. You know, I mean, if you can literally, you are in control of your thoughts about these things, you know, and that's from the physical standpoint. I would view, like, even at a cellular level, like your muscle tissue being torn down so that it can be stronger. And so, like, as I'm carrying this rucksack, and every step's like, I am getting one step closer to the finish line. I am in. So if you're trying to make money, like, what is the nastiest stuff that people don't want to do? Like, in this comfort ridden society, for me, that's crawl spaces. I do structural repairs on crawl spaces, and not even really big ones. Just like, oh, like this, we got termite damage, but I have to disassemble stuff. I have to pour piers, and I have to put block in. And it's like 3 or 4 different trades that are hard. And I do all of it, and my boys help me do it, you know, and I can get in and out and make $5,000 or $6,000 in a day, you know, like the really good white collar jobs are not making that, you know, like, and so that's the other side of it is if you can, and I'm a huge fan of Rory Grove's Durable Trades. Just looking at, he's a computer guy, but he just analyzed vocations. What are the most, like, going back to the beginning of time before Industrial Revolution, what is still needed? What's a job that is still here? And then I still use AI. I still use software and things like that, but it's to give me more time to be in the crawl space. And I'm not worried about AI getting in the crawl space anytime soon and doing this on an existing house and a pier, and there's, you know, there's a screw in the way, and how do I pry on? Like, there's just too many physically manifested things that I've been doing this 9 years. I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe somebody did that. Like, how do I fix this? And these are things that are durable and will exist. And then if you can use technology, like, most of the blue collar guys don't have a clue about technology, you know? And so being able to kind of have skill in some of these different domains and pair them together, that's a skill that you can get without going to college. That you can, I mean, that's the other side of it, is there's opportunities to just go and work and understand man's relationship with work. I know that the Faith Driven Entrepreneur podcast, I think, talks about how it's a mercy. I heard an episode a while ago about it's a mercy that work is cursed because it drives us to God. Like, I mean, that's the, you know, the Benedictine monastery. Like, as soon as the monk got used to being in the crawl space, they had him go clean toilets. As soon as he got used to that, it's like, we got to keep the work nasty and sanctifying. And that's also the reality, is if you can, the more of that nasty work that you can take upon yourself, the more you can organize people and software and stuff against that nastiness, then the more money you're going to have, you know? And I think there's tremendous opportunity in those blue collar. For me personally, that's why I look at it as, you know, blue collar, or helping blue collar leverage software. Even if you're a nerd, like, these guys need, my son is going through an N8N, you know, thing to figure out how to get, you know, our CRM optimized. And, you know, it still has to be a person. I still want to interact with these potential customers, but even leveraging some of these automations to say, look, this is going to actually help us get to your crawl space quicker and actually fix things for you sooner if you can fill this out for us, you know. And there's just tremendous opportunity in the real, in the physical, and with people. And that is the cheat code that the Bible gives us. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. Like, the enemy is self-destructing right now, and churches are growing. Like it's so exciting for what the future for our. I mean, I'm so excited about how our kids are having kids. Even like there's just going to be, we have this labor force and this ability to create value that can't be quickly. That's the ultimate sowing and reaping
Yep.
is, and God made it fun too,
Yep.
like it's like, it's awesome. And you can't, having a 16-year-old and you have a 19-year-old. I mean, that's a lot of sowing into a young person.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're seeing this happen, you're like, man, and even that, just looking at it and be like, 100% that was either his mom or God, because that was not me that did that at all. Like,
well, praise the Lord. What's finished? I think we've got about 10 minutes more based on what we gave you. We want to keep our word, especially a military guy. Ashwa told me he's going to be a few minutes late today. I was like, listen, we can't be late on the episode with the military guy. What in the world are we doing?
Everybody that knows me, that's maybe the reason why I'm not in the military is one of the reasons I actually recycled RIP. I had to do the Ranger course again because I was 45 minutes late to formation.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I
funny.
misheard the time, showed up late. They were like, you're starting it all over again. I'm like, man, okay, here we go.
Well, in that case, no worries. But in that case, we'll go for another half hour. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So how did you tell me your Bitcoin story? So we kind of buried the lead here. You mentioned it one time, but you are a Bitcoiner and you're into, you have Bitcoin. Where did this come from? Why, what was the value proposition for you initially? And how do you think about it today?
Yeah, I have a friend back in Huntsville that I went back for like Christmas. I can't remember, several years ago. And I can't even remember the name of his podcast. He had like 4 or 5 episodes that he did with a friend of his. And what clicked for me was they described it as, real estate that you can divide up as small as you want and sell it. And so as a guy that I had the mansion at the time. We didn't have land or whatever. But that it clicked for me then, and I was like, okay. So, and I understand that, I basically, if you accept that you're not going to get rich overnight, like literally, like we talked about in the Proverbs, like wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but he who gathers little by little will increase. So if you're okay with that, like you just accept that I'm going to gather little by little. I think the first thing I did is I got, my COVID stimulus check, 100% went to Bitcoin.
Let's go.
Because I was like, I shouldn't be getting this money anyway. This is ridiculous. It's made up anyway. The only way that I ethically feel like I can use this is if I bought 100% in Bitcoin, so I guess that's 2020. When I bought for the first time. And I still, the way that I look at it, I mean, I'm a big own bullets kind of guy, and a big shorten the supply chain for your food kind of guy. And I'm a big, you can't, being a guy that has sat in a Humvee from 2 in the morning till 4 in the morning, had to get woke up for that shift for week. I mean, my first deployment, we did 3 weeks at a time out of a Humvee with roll bars. And so understanding what it takes to be 40 people in a Ranger infantry platoon out in the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan that you got to do to protect your fighting element from the enemy, and how like sleep deprived you are if you're going to try to do, you can't do this by yourself. So that's the church has to be involved. I got to be with people that I know have a moral framework that they're not going to eat me, like like if it gets bad. And so that's the other side of it is I think, we're in the cycle of things. It's going to get harder in some ways. There's going to be, ultimately, we have the cheat manual, and we were ordering our lives to be able to be resilient and much more. So my majority of my stuff has been a real estate play, but I also am like, I gotta own as big a chunk as I possibly can of this as a hedge. in a lot of ways. And as a you know, understanding the principles of money, you know, I mean, the last guy you had on was talking about how he has gold. Like, it's like, yeah, but we Bitcoiners know why gold is not good, you know.
There's a
And
reason we don't use gold anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I've crossed borders, I've gone through checkpoints, I've been through you know, survival, evasion, resistance, escape, SEER schools where, you know, you're getting shoved in the box and slapped around. And so like I understand, I've seen I've traveled the Middle East a lot. I've traveled North Africa. You know, it's like I've seen how like a lot of this stuff plays out with my own eyes. The depravity of man when he is not regulated by something, you know, outside himself. And if that's good government ordered appropriately according to God's law, or even if it's just a dictator, you know, like man who is not good needs to be ruled over by something. And I want that to be Christians, you know, 100%. So I will, I just recently started trying to basically buy at a regular basis. Like, let's figure out what kind of, what is discretionary, and let's just gather little by little more in this vein. But I also, like, you know, leading up to elections and things like that, like I want to be one of the most dangerous dudes ever. Always. And I want my kids to be, I mean, I literally, this is not because, like, when you see what's happening with Antifa and these different movements that are violent and hate our way of life, you need to be dangerous, you know? So a lot of my, I will offer a safe harbor to a lot of Bitcoiners that have more than me at our compound, you know, like, we will let you in our gate. We will be able to take payment in Bitcoin, even when the power's down, and, we will let you in. So I think that's, I 100% like back to, I mean, one of my friends talked about this, about radios. Like, you can't just own a ham radio and be able to use it. Like, oh, I'll just fire up the radio and then I'll immediately be able to communicate. This is my alternate source of communication, you know, or whatever. Like, you have to practice these things. And so I would more characterize myself as, you know, practicing with it and understanding how you do. I mean, I set up today, like I actually I saw the post from Jack Dorsey about Square taking Bitcoin. And, you know, I'm like, I don't trust that guy necessarily. He's got some history, but I need to start thinking through how to take. I'm going to try to. I'm pushing to try to take payment in Bitcoin for construction services. So I started setting up, and even, you know, the guys say, hey, just put a little Bitcoin thing on your website, and you might actually get some people that you like. They'll be like, done. This is my contractor, you know, because that's a, just like in COVID, the people that weren't wearing masks, you're like, I know you're on my team, bro. Like, we are together. There's just you and me in the grocery store, or you and me in the airport. My 16-year-old actually got me on the no-fly list during COVID because I talked to him about having an active resistance posture. If you're being and that's something that they kind of talk about in SEER school, is like you're in captivity and you have to kind of do these things to stay human, to stay in resistance to this tyrannical situation that you're in. And you read these accounts of these prisoners who are like, hey, look, they own the airplane. They have the authority to say how we should conduct ourselves in the air. I don't agree that they're like, if all the airlines just said no, you know, we just it's,
we severely underestimate the amount of authority that and power that we actually have. Like,
yes. And every time, and I would say, you know, when they say federal law, and it's like, not a law, like, this did not go through both houses and get signed by the president. Like, this is, and so, like, talk to my son, like, hey, we're trying to fly out. to this conference across the country. It'd take us 4 days to get there and 4 days to get back. So we're going to comply because it's only 4-hour flight, and so we're going to have to, but we're going to resist. We're going to have a resistance posture. So it's like the way Dad does it is he has this mask underneath his nose and he makes them tell him put it up, and then I take it back down, and then I make him tell me put it back up, and so that's my little micro fight against this tyranny. And he was like, well, I'm going to try to do it the whole way out and the whole way back without wearing a mask at all. And I think it was September. No, it was May of 21. I'm pretty sure it was. Like, it's still like going crazy. And maybe March. But so it was still when you could actively eat. So that dude drank probably a gallon of water and ate like 5 pounds of gummy bears on this flight, But we end up sitting behind a double mask person. And anyway, it was we got reported and it got escalated to committee or whatever. And so, yeah, my 12-year-old, basically his resistance posture was so in their face that Dad got barred from flying.
So you're still on the no-fly list?
No, it got
something?
escalated to committee. I had 96 hours to submit my statement about how I would be a good follower of oppression and tyranny. And they would review it and let me fly again if they thought so. So it took like 3 weeks, and it was just one airline. And so, I mean, I just booked another ticket, but we were like basically halfway back and stuck at the airport and couldn't get on our next flight because we were barred because my son's such a tyrant. Like your kids, or he's such a rebel. Your kids do in excess what you do in moderation.
That's 100% the truth.
Both for good and bad. But yeah, I mean, those are phenomenal education opportunities, and thinking through and going through these things and understanding like, okay, this was a side effect of what happened. This we have to learn from these situations and grow and also realizing, everybody doesn't think like this and all the things around that. It's either way, I think it's the most glorious time to be alive. I'm jacked about the future. And, and that's the thing too, is when you have this long view of history with God directing it, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for COVID.
Exactly.
Like the things that are happening with these different social media platforms and all these things, like they literally thought these pale, frail, power hungry people got in the room and hatched up this diabolical plan to enslave humanity. And we're the least susceptible to tyrants we've ever been. A lot of us are, a lot of people got a full OS reboot, and are still there. It's okay. Like they're captives to sin and death. We're going to set them free. Cause we're building beautiful things. We have, that's the other side of just trying to make the gospel beautiful in its form. Like talking about our kids whistling harmonies, that's understanding music, understanding good food, like all these things. Like we have all these weapons that they cannot contend with. They literally have no way to combat the goodness and the beauty and the truth that is in the gospel. And the more pressure they put on us, coincidentally, the more people hear the gospel. Like it's just, and they haven't figured it out. Like it's just we grow when you try to persecute us. Like
I'm gonna gospel even harder.
yeah. After careful consideration, I have decided to become worse.
Anyhow, Oshawa, I'll give you the last word. Nathan, thank you so much. Grateful for you, and this will not be the last time. We need to have you back and discuss some of those ham radio, other kinds of just techniques and things that we can learn to be more effective and more resisting Bitcoiners. That'd be a great thing.
Am I allowed to plug? Can I plug one of the things I'm working on?
Chill to your heart's
now?
content. Let's go.
Just there's been a lot of forms that I've been trying to do this, but way I'm doing it currently, if you just go to tacticalhousehold.com, I have a school community set up. and
Let's go.
it's a private school community. So I'll just ask that you put what church you're going to or something that's identifiable. It's not super closed or whatever. And I'm trying to kind of basically have the 3 buckets that I talk about are build, defend, repeat. And so build is wealth, your house, whatever, like the ways that you do that. Defending is how do I have guns and what night vision and what thermals and what, whatever to actually physically defend, but then also there's spiritual and all those things. And then the repeat is the multi-generational, the education, the vision. And that's just kind of the framework. And I really like, it's a smaller group. It's private. It's not the same as on these platforms. So I feel a little bit more at liberty to share stuff. And then I'm probably going to, within that group, I kind of have been like, how can I monetize these things and make, basically kind of like, nope, that's me just trying to buy the lie of making this online money.
Yep.
And I want people to have this knowledge. I want the church, I want Christians to be able to be good with firearms, to be building wealth in honorable ways. For me, it's blue collar.
Yep.
And it's all just going to be free. And then we're going to try to do next year, we're going to try to do in-person smaller stuff that we're going to charge for, but I'm going to build a speaker deck that's like, how do you set up trusts and how do you, but then we're going to shoot and we're going to do like some of these tactical events. But in the meantime, I have a basic pistol course there that just talks about how to dry fire, how to present the gun, how to do a just real basic. And I'm going to keep adding to that in that platform as I can.
Well, that sounds awesome. That sounds like something we might need to maybe add to a TGFB conference. That'd be a fun thing to do in addition to that. So, Ashwa, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah. Well, no, I was gonna ask about bug out bags and like your prepper list and wrench attack responses. I was speaking at a Bitcoin conference in Lugano, and they had a pre-conference that was all about getting to know your Glock and like $5 wrench attack kind of defense. And it was like crazy expensive. And I'm like, I can shoot my Glock for free. I don't need to pay you. But but like honestly, that type of those conversations and that type of real training, real practice, and then real community. So I love that. Like I'll be checking out what you put together. And the only other thing I'll add is that the multi-generational piece is intentional marriages. And so like let's make these multi-generational family affairs. We all like the family that shoots together, stays together, and the community that marries together gets to multiply together. So let's talk.
So we're 100%. He's looking for the arranged marriage component of the school course. So please,
George and I have been working on this for a while. How do we do family?
Well, we have, so we're working on, we have 150 kids, 16 and under at our church, and our Sundays are about 320 to 340. So we're half kids, 16 and under, and the future is bright. The younger you get, actually, I mean, there's just like a slew of 4-year-olds. Like those 4-year-old dudes are going to be sitting pretty. But yeah, 100%. And just getting in, I mean, I think that's the beauty of these conference scenes too, and traveling. I always take kids with me. My wife's an introvert. She's like, I actually like it when you travel. I get to read more. And, but I take kids along. I've gotten her to come along to a couple, and I think that's going to be the goal too, is get people together, because that's what you realize. And Bitcoiners, I think have one of the best overlaps as far as when I start talking to them, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get along with you. Like it's a great recognition of being on the team, but yeah, you got to be around people in person, and that's the thing that. All these, so I think what I said at that event, Trad Dad event that I guess you were at, it didn't say hi to me, but it's because you live in the city.
Yeah, exactly.
But they aren't getting together. they aren't all, there's not 200, there's not 320 of them in a room together, breaking bread, enjoying wine. Like it's nobody's doing that, and because it's not scalable, it's not something that you can just make happen out of thin air. And so I guess that's the goal, is to make it food that women in our church prepare, with, I mean, we have the dudes in our church, like I don't have to teach any of the tactical stuff. I can just be like, which weekends are you guys around? And it's just, the skill set's just insane. And so I'm actually looking forward to it being an extension of our church in some ways.
Cool.
Free market, individual families working it out of good teaching. But I'm jacked about the future. It's coming. It's gonna be good.
Love it. Well, hey, man, thank you so much again, and we will have you back for sure. And thank you to all of you at home who are listening, watching. If this has been helpful for you, like, subscribe, follow, go find Nathan. His handle there is right there below his name. And we will see you on the next episode of the TGFB podcast. All right.